Welcome to Making Democracy Work, a monthly series on topics of community interest brought to you by the League of Women Voters of Honolulu. I am Pearl Johnson from the League of Women Voters. I'm chair of the Planning and Transportation Committee. With me today are two people from the Trust for Public Land, the State Director of the Trust for Public Land, Leah Hong, and the I'm doing it again.
Yeah, I'm the Native Lands
Land Project Director, yes, Laura Ka'akua.
Yes.
Correct? Good. And welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
We'll talk a little bit about the Trust for Public Land. Leah?
The Trust for Public Land's a national nonprofit land conservation organization, and we've been doing work in Hawaii since 1979 and have completed 28 projects conserving over 42,000 acres of land. Our work in Hawaii focuses generally in three areas: the protection of shoreline and coastal lands, because we are an island state and shorelines are so important to us. Working lands that promote Hawaii's self-sufficiency in food, water, so agricultural lands, forest watersheds. And the third area is native lands that perpetuate Hawaiian culture, and we have a full-time staff position, the Native Lands Project Manager that Laura is, to work on Native Lands Project, although, you know, I think I work on some Native Lands projects as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So this time we're going to concentrate on what the Conserving Native Lands is doing. So you want to give us an overview of what is happening there?
Sure. The goal of our Native Lands program is to protect lands that perpetuate Hawaiian culture. So kind of our short mission of the organization is Land for People, and we see a critical need to connect our Native Hawaiian community to the land and allow that access, which then opens the doors not just for Native Hawaiians, but for all of us here. And so we're working on a number of projects that, once protected, will help to perpetuate Hawaiian culture and are very important to Native Hawaiian communities in that area. As Leah said, we've worked on many Native Lands projects in the past, and have many more that we're working on now.
So one of the, do you want to go through them in the order that you put up pictures?
Sure, we do have some pictures to share. Maybe we'll start with our Hawaiian project. This is a recently completed project in Mauna Lua in East Honolulu. Hawaiian Complex and Keawava Wetland is a 5-acre property that's kind of sandwiched between the Oahu Club, which is an outdoor recreational facility, and the Halekalai development. And when Hawaii Kai was developed, the traditional name is Mauna Lua, when Hawaii Kai was developed, these 5 acres were not. And it's pretty amazing what remains here. So there is...
Tell me what we're looking at here. Is this the remains of the heiau?
So really this is a whole kind of fishing village that surrounded Keahopua Mauna Lua fish pond, which was the biggest fish pond in all of Polynesia and is now the Hawaii Kai Marina. And so this property is in back of and was once part of that fish pond landscape. So we're looking at an ancient niu or coconut grove. The tallest tree, I believe it's kind of shooting off of the picture here.
Yes.
The tallest tree in this niu grove is actually the current record holder in terms of the tallest niu tree, which is an exciting honor for this community, and it's really a wonder that this niu grove remains. This niu grove shows in maps from the 1800s and is the only remaining ancient niu grove in the area. Hawaiian is in back of that niu grove. Within the niu grove, there's an ahu or an altar. There's a well spring-fed well.
Do we have a picture of the heiau?
We do not have a picture, a close-up picture of the heiau, but we do have pictures. You can go to the next slide, please. Sure. These are alai'ula. So alai'ula are the Hawaiian moorhen. They're an endangered Hawaiian wetland bird, and they make their home on this property and on the adjacent wetland property, which is part of the Oahu Club. And so we worked with the local community group, Livable Hawaii Kai Hui, and the landowner to raise state and city funds to purchase the property. And it's now under the ownership and stewardship of Livable Hawaii Kai Hui. And the members of the Hawaii Kai Hui, and especially their Hawaiian Cultural Committee, were the very ones that came in and said this property is not appropriate for development, and shared the history of the area with the landowner. And thankfully we worked with a great landowner that was willing to look at this voluntary land conservation option and sell the property to the community.
Landowner?
Halekalai. So Halekalai is the adjacent landowner, and they're still moving forward with a development on 3 acres there. The property, Hawaiian Heiau Complex, was originally planned as a private outdoor amenity for the Halekalai development. And once members of Livable Hawaii Kai Hui educated the landowner as to how special this area was, they agreed to only build on the 3 acres and then sell the larger parcel, the 5 acres, to the Trust for Public Land, and we conveyed it to Livable Hawaii Kai Hui.
I see.
Right.
And so you had to raise private money in order to purchase it from them?
Yes, so we raised public money in this instance. We raised money from the State Legacy Land Conservation Program, and then monies from the city's Clean Water and Natural Lands Program. 2 sources of dedicated funding for conservation matched up to protect this really important property. And so now, before the community didn't have access, and now the community is welcomed. It's the community that owns it and the community that welcomes in their neighbors. They have monthly work days. I believe it's every second Saturday morning. And then they're welcoming in many community groups. So they have preschool coming in. They have a lot of civic organizations coming in to volunteer, and also just to walk the grounds and learn about the history of the area.
Let's get specific. If one wanted to go there, exactly how would you go?
Well, you could go on a second Saturday of the month. I believe their orientation starts at 8:30, and you would just go and work clothes.
But you would go Kalanianaole Highway?
I'm sorry. Yes, you would get onto Kalanianaole Highway, heading into Mauna Lua or Hawaii Kai. You would take Hawaii Kai Drive, and it loops around, and you will pass the Oahu Club, and you can park right on Hawaii Kai Drive. And
I see.
So this is past the Costco, near where all the high-rise condominiums are in the back of the valley.
Yes.
And so it's right near there.
Yeah, it's between the high-rise condos and Costco. Kind of at the corner of Keahole Street and Hawaii Kai Drive.
I see. And it is open to the public at any time?
It's not open to the public at any time. You need to make an appointment.
I see.
Or say that, hey, I would like to come in on Tuesday at this time. Is there any volunteers that might be able to take me in? There's often volunteers working, and if passersby are interested, they always open the gate and come in. It is managed access because of the sensitivity of both the native wetland habitat and the sensitivity of the cultural sites.
I see.
And in the past, there was some graffiti and damage done to some of the sites by, I think, some misspent youth.
So it's a balance. The whole goal in working on many of our native lands projects is both to preserve what is there, but not to have it be kind of a museum culture. To have people come in, continue Hawaiian cultural practices, continue education. And so in all of our native land projects, we're kind of working out that balance and assisting the community to work out that balance. And I think Livable Hawaii Kaihui is doing a great job at having regular open houses and community work days, and then also they have a huge banner out front and it gives contact information. And when people call or email, the volunteers are always willing.
And the regular days are what again?
Every second Saturday morning, starting at, I believe, 8:30.
The second Saturday of every month?
Every month.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So let's go on to your next project.
Sure. So there's a picture that's number 4 or 5, Kuomo'o. It's a project that both Laura and I are working on the Big Island, south of Keaho'okona. And it's the site of a very important historical battle. So if you go back in history, in 1819, that's when Kamehameha I died. And following his death, there was a lot of upheaval. There were some Western influences that were influencing the Hawaiian kingdom, and a lot of dispute between different members of different groups about...
Now, is that the ocean there?
Yes.
The water is the ocean.
The water's the ocean.
And the cliff falls right into the ocean.
Uh-huh.
And the battle took place at the cliff?
Yes, it took place in the water and along the shoreline of Kuomo'o. It raged up and down the Kona coast. The battle was between the forces of Kamehameha II, or Liho, and Kekuaokalani, Kamehameha I's nephew. And it was over the traditional kapu system. And there were some folks who wanted to overturn the kapu system and others who wanted to preserve it. So Liho, or Kamehameha II, led the forces that wanted to overturn the kapu system. And Kekuaokalani and his wife, Chiefess Manono, led forces that wanted to retain the traditional kapu system. So Kamehameha II's forces had overwhelming forces. They had cannon that were mounted on canoes and muskets. And so they did prevail over the traditional forces that wanted to preserve the kapu system. So it was sort of a civil war in sort of retrospect, Native Hawaiians versus Native Hawaiians.
Was it also a family war? Was the opposing side also a part of the Kamehameha family?
Yes, Kekuaokalani was Kamehameha I's nephew. And so it was a bit of a family dispute as well. And so following this battle, wherein Kamehameha II's forces won, just a few months later, the first ship of missionaries arrived, and really Hawaii's history was changed forever. And so the Hawaiian families that own this property and have stewarded it for many, many years need to sell it for financial reasons. But they really wanted to see that that property be preserved for cultural preservation and for education. And we were able to connect them to another Hawaiian nonprofit, the Mo'halaho Foundation, which was founded by the musician Keola Beamer, and is also his nephew, Kamana Beamer, who teaches at the University of Hawaii, is also a member of the nonprofit. And we were able to negotiate the purchase of the land and able to raise about $3 million from the State Legacy Land Conservation Program. And we're in the process of raising another $1 million, and hopefully we'll be able to purchase this land, and Mo'halaho Foundation will own it and steward it. They would like to establish kind of an Aina-based educational learning area so that people from Hawaii and all over the world can learn about the history of Hawaii. They also want to hopefully have sort of a center for peace and reconciliation given the land's history. They want to restore some of the land to its past productivity. There used to be agriculture on the land and a small fishing village. It's their ancestor. Many people know Auntie Nona Beamer, who is Keola Beamer's mother. She's a famous kumuhula and activist. And she is actually named after Chiefess Manono. Chiefess Manono, who was the wife of Kekuokalani. They are said to have...
The losing side.
The losing side. She is said to have, stayed at her husband's side during the battle and perished in the battle at his side. And they're both said to be buried there on the land with their warriors. And so the Beamers have a very close connection to this property, and they would like to see it conserved and used for education.
So that's still in the process. You're still trying to raise money.
Right. So we're still trying to raise about $1 million.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll work towards closing that soon.
Yeah. This is the second time that the Legacy Lands money has been mentioned. Could you talk to us about that?
Sure, sure. The Legacy Land Conservation Program was established back in 2005 by the Hawaii State Legislature. And every time land is sold in Hawaii, a tax is paid called the conveyance tax. 10% of that tax is set aside in a special fund that is dedicated to land conservation for different purposes. Culture, agriculture, watershed, forest, native habitat. And so a commission appointed by the governor reviews applications on an annual basis and makes recommendations to the Board of Land and Natural Resources on how to spend the money in the fund for land conservation.
And the tax is a percentage of the amount paid for the land being transferred, is that correct? So that when we hear about these multi-million-dollar purchases, we can rejoice in that a little bit of that money is going to this, right?
Yeah, that's one side benefit.
Right. Now, we don't have that much time, so let's try to get through all of these that we have here, okay?
Sure,
we have about 10 minutes.
Great, yeah, we can go to the next slide, please. So staying on Hawaii Island and just kind of rounding South Point, we're now in Ka'u, and we're looking at a 1,363 acre property called Kaunamano. Kaunamano is a ahupua'a of historic importance in the Ka'u district, and we are working with the Ka'u community, the Keanu family of Ka'u that has ancestral ties to the property, and the nonprofit Ka'ohana Ohonu Apo to protect this, the vast majority of the Makai section of Kaunamano. And Kaunamano has hundreds of cultural sites. We are now looking at the ancient coastal village. We see many native plants that dominate the landscape here, walls, enclosures, and it reflects the meaning of Kaunamano, which is the place of the multitudes. So the kupuna of Ka'u lived here. Nobody lives here now, but the Ka'u people want to preserve their history and honor the place by protecting this land. So we are currently working to raise acquisition funds for the purchase of the land.
The land looks very barren. It's so rocky. There were people actually living here and raising crops here?
Yeah, so the marine richness of Ka'u in general is amazing. Some have compared it to the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. And so the marine environment is so pristine. And so there's a lot of protein there. And it is a very rocky coastline, but it's also very fertile. So you see, the native ground cover growing there.
So they were able to have little garden plots in that, in whatever land there was.
Yeah, yeah. So this area would have, did sustain hundreds, thousands.
Is that right?
Yeah, and we're
so
looking.
that we're looking at walls, right? That black line on the left, upper left, is a rock wall.
That's right, and these walls just continue on. And it's really an entire coastal village. And further Mauka, There are hundreds of other cultural sites, and further Mauka of that, there's a Makahiki grounds, and then different sites that would continue up into the forest.
How big is the site you're trying to acquire here?
1,300 acres.
Oh, and how far along are you?
We have received a recommendation for funding from the County of Hawaii. The county would be the owner of the property, and they would be assisted by the nonprofit Ka'ohana o Honuapo and the Keanu family to steward the property.
Is it in private hands right now?
It is in private hands right now. We have a willing landowner
Good.
who realizes the value here and that this is probably more appropriate for county kind of passive ownership and community management than development. And so we will be seeking state and federal and private funding to see this through. A lot of our work is in landscape conservation.
Okay, we have to move along.
Okay, sure.
Maybe the next picture.
Yeah. We can just take a quick
And
look
what
at
is
pictures.
the next one?
This shows another picture of Konomano. This is the Alakahakai trail, which goes around the vast majority of the island.
And that's what the Hawaiians used to walk on.
Yeah, it gives you a path from coastal village to coastal village, and it's still there.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Yes. So the next picture, please.
This is the Keanu family of Ku'u, and we included this there in Puhi'ula Cave, which is part of the coastal village. And you know, all of our projects have to be community driven, and so often we're contacted by families that just want to see these lands honored and protected.
Now, is the cave a coastal cave?
It is a coastal cave, and there's opai'ula, the native Hawaiian shrimp in the cave. Yeah, and
Okay, we do have to
forward.
move along. Go ahead.
Another project we're
this is
working
it.
on is in Wailupe Valley, Aina Haina, and this is a little different project. It's the trailhead of the Wailupe Valley Trail, and we've been assisting the Aina Haina community to purchase this property. We're working in partnership with the city and county of Honolulu that is a willing landowner here, so the city would own it. And there are many cultural sites in Wailupe Valley, and it's very important for the community to retain access into the valley.
So this is at the top of Wailupe Valley.
That's right. Right below the property there are houses, so it is kind of the buffer between the residential development and the gateway into Wailupe Valley.
Okay.
And we can just take a look quickly at some of the cultural sites in Wailupe Valley that the community
and that
wants
stone
to see
has some
protected.
significance, I guess.
Yeah, you know, in many places you'll find tea leaf, and there's noni here and hala, and that can kind of alert you that there may be some site of significance here, and this is thought to be a heiau site. And also in the valley, there are oahu alipaio, which are endangered, and we work with many communities that are excited to know that their natural resources and cultural resources still exist right in back of their homes there. We're now moving over to the east side. This is Hakipu'u. We're looking at Kanehoalani and into Kualoa.
What island are we at?
Oh, I'm sorry, we're on Oahu. So Kualoa, just south of Kualoa is Hakipu'u, and we are working with a family in Hakipu'u and a nonprofit called Kahulio Haloa and the Hakipu'u Learning Center, which is a Hawaiian charter school, to protect this property, to keep it in active kalo cultivation and honor the family's legacy here.
And that's kalo that we're looking at
That
in the
is
foreground.
kalo, yeah.
And in the background is grass?
Yep, so those are fallow kalo
I see.
patches there.
And this is adjacent to Kualoa Ranch?
It's not, actually, yes, it is adjacent to Kualoa Ranch land. It's next to Moli'i Fish Pond. Now we're looking into Kalihi Valley on Oahu. We're helping the nonprofit Kokua Kalihi Valley Comprehensive Family Health Services to acquire a parcel that looks down upon the land that they currently lease from the state, where they do native reforestation and community gardening with the diverse Kalihi community.
Yes, and in our previous program, we talked about this is a volunteer opportunity for people to help restore the land.
Right.
Are there any more projects that we're going to go through?
No, we're...
Okay, very good. Now, I was very interested in what you said when I don't know what slide that was, but there was a stone. So you said that you could tell that it was a heiau because people had planted the tea and what else there?
In that area, there's, you can see the la'i or the tea leaf is very gnarled, so you know it's so old. It's actually been cared for, so it's kind of curving around this cultural site. In the background there is kukui, there is noni, which is a medicinal plant, and there is hala. Sometimes when you're in a certain area and you see plants that are very useful, or especially that you might be able to use in la'au lapa'au or traditional medicine, that can give you, kind of alert you that there may be cultural sites in the area because of the function of those plants, and that it may give us some inkling of what the heiau was used for. That may have been a healing heiau, or may have had something to do with healing and la'au lapa'au and those practices.
That is so interesting. In my younger days, I used to go hiking.
Yeah.
And, people who are now hiking can take a look around them, and if they see some of this, they can think, this used to be used by the Hawaiians for sacred purposes.
Right.
The work of Trust for Public Land is really, really important. And I thank you, both of you, very much for the work that you're doing. There is so much to learn about Hawaiian history.
There is.
And about the land that we live in.
Right, so many stories.
Yes. And so I want to thank the both of you from Trust for Public Land, Leah Hong, the State Director, and Laura Ka'akua. Yes.
Mahalo, Pearl.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I am Pearl Johnson with the League of Women Voters. Thank you for coming and staying with us. Thank you.